everybody, and welcome to another edition of In Pit Lane from the studios of RMIT here in the heart of Grand Prix City, Melbourne. Yes, a big weekend coming up. After a big weekend last weekend at Phillip Island, we've got an even bigger weekend coming up again next weekend with the Shannon's Australian Motorsport Championships. Just an amazing array of categories on display this weekend. You've got TCA, you've got the Australian GT Championship, the S5000s will be back, and the Trans-Am series as well. And our guest tonight will be competing in the Trans-Am series, and he's been competing in all sorts of things, including S5000s, and he's got a bit of a sort of extracurricular activity on the side too. We'll be asking him about a little bit later on in the program. His name is Nathan Herne, and you can see him right here. He's a member of Gary Rogers Motorsport, and he'll be joining us in just a moment. But Doc's alongside me. Good to see you back, Doc.
Good to see you too, Brett. Good to see all the viewers out there. It's going to be great. 2 weekends of Phillip Island in a row. A little bit of speed series with a dash of the real grunt and muscle and the beast of the TA2s. It's going to be awesome, isn't it? It's going to be a big weekend. But right now, let's find out what's been happening. A very busy weekend in motorsport once again. Let's check out what's been happening as we take you through the miracle of modern technology and our mastery of over the time and space continuum. We go to the In Pit Lane Motorsport News. Large crowds on hand as the Phillip Island Historic Classic roared into life last weekend. With over 400 cars entered, there was plenty of variety both on the track and in the car parks as the Victorian Historic Racing Register celebrated the history of Australian motorsport. Although the ongoing global crisis meant no international cars on hand, there were some international drivers, and they were here in Formula Ford. The popularity of Formula Ford as an historic category continues, with a massive field of 52 cars taking to the track. French driver Xavier Michel and Swiss driver Ghislaine Jenicand were on board cars from Chris Davison's Ecurie Australie outfit, alongside English drivers Joe Herne and Richard Tarling.
So this is probably, I mean, we often get grids of 30 to 40 cars, but to have around 60 here is a really, really good grid. It's a long circuit, so it's not so bad. It doesn't feel really too crowded. But yeah, we get 30 to 40 cars on most weekends, but we have more races more regularly. I guess here there's a few less races because of the distance between all the tracks. But generally the racing is very similar rules, similar cars. Yeah, so it's quite easy to fit in.
Darling was the fastest of the visitors, but it was local drivers Nick McBride, Tim Blanchard and Jonathan Miles who shared the race wins for the weekend. For those of us who may dream of a relocated Australian Grand Prix at Phillip Island, sadly that's never going to happen. The only way you'll see Formula One cars on the track at the island is right here, like the Ferrari of Guido Belgiorno Nettis.
First one, number 27, which is the car I'm driving this weekend, was a car I collected in 1996. I had the great fortune to be able to get it in those days when not many people in Australia were thinking about Formula One cars. But I didn't really start driving it until 2001, 2002. We had a few incidents with the car, it wasn't ready. And I then started slowly, having never driven a race car in my life, I then started with this car. So that's quite a handful. But I've nibbled my way up. I remember my first laps at Decent Creek at 150. And then when I've got into it, I've been able to set the lap record to 124. So I've done pretty well over the years.
The Ferrari was the fastest car on track all weekend, dominating all 4 races. The 2022 Phillip Island Historic Classic showed once again the popularity of historic motorsport, and hopefully 2023 will see more international drivers and cars on hand to compete. In Pit Lane will have a special edition on the Classic here on Channel 31 and on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel on April 26. Formula One returns this weekend, and following the pre-season test, it looks as if the current world champion will once again be very hard to beat. Max Verstappen set the fastest time for the test last weekend to announce to the world that, new rules or not, Red Bull Racing and Adrian Newey are still the team to beat. A surprising second fastest was not Mercedes but Haas and Mick Schumacher,
who edged out the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc for a second fastest time of the weekend. The Alpine of Fernando Alonso was fourth fastest, ahead of the first Mercedes of George Russell. The man that Russell replaced at Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas, was sixth fastest, ahead of Yuki Tsunoda's AlphaTauri and Sergio Perez in the second Red Bull. It was a tough test for McLaren, with Lando Norris forced to run solo for 3 days after a positive COVID test for Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo's misfortune may well be the big break for another Aussie, however, in Oscar Piastri. Should Ricciardo stay positive on the weekend, Piastri has been given permission by Alpine to replace his fellow Australian for the race. So it has seemed that Australia will have a certain starter in the weekend's opening round. It's just at this stage, we don't know who it'll be. Hagen ran a 391 at 532 kilometres per hour to beat Blake Alexander in the final round. Another debut winner's Trip Tatum took out his first career Top Fuel victory, streaking past Doug Foley in the final. In Pro Stock, Dallas Glenn, the reigning NHRA Rookie of the Year, got the best of his KB Racing teammate, Kyle Koteski, for the win, his first of the season. And Karen Stouffer wrapped up an impressive weekend to beat Angie Smith in an all-female final round of Pro Stock Motorcycle. Another first-up win, this time in NASCAR, as Chase Briscoe won his first ever NASCAR race to become the 200th NASCAR race winner. After holding off Chase Elliott over a long green flag run, and then Ross Chastain and Tyler Reddick on a pair of late race restarts, Briscoe drove on to take his first win and bring Tony Stewart Racing back to the victory lane for the first time since 2018. Briscoe, last year's Rookie of the Year, grew up as a huge fan of Tony Stewart and said after the race that he was in tears for most of the final lap. And a major shake-up for local speedway in Victoria after an investigation by the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, ACCC, have investigated an agreement between Speedway Australia and the Sprintcar Council of Australia that restricted the ability for affiliated tracks to have Victorian Sprintcar Council affiliated cars included on event programs. A resolution's now been reached reducing such restrictions. Tracks that choose to run VSC sprint cars can now do so, but they will have to provide alternative insurance cover to Speedway Australia. The AASA has already stepped in to offer tracks such insurance if required. The case could have major implications for all forms of motorsport in Australia, potentially opening up circuits and events to more alternative classes and sanctioning bodies. And that's the In-Pit Lane news for Tuesday, March the 15th, 2022. And now we go back in time and space to a slightly younger me, to a happier time, when petrol was still under $2 a litre, and I still had a voice.
And we'll indeed have more news next week. Now, as I said a little bit earlier, coming up in just a moment, we'll be catching up with our special guest, Nathan Herne. Also coming up a little bit later on in the program, live music from our special guest, Kyle Plummer. That's when In-Pit Lane returns right after this break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
There we go.
There we go.
You're alive.
Oh, well, we're alive. We wasn't there. I'll let you know. This is the reason behind watching this. The dreaded second show syndrome has started again. Unfortunately, as we know, it's been very, very difficult times, and we have lost, for various reasons, including the obvious one, we have lost pretty much all of the crew who turned up here last week. We've lost pretty much all of them. So we've got a whole bunch of new people. Jack's directing for the first time.
The replacement people are awesome.
Well, they're doing a fabulous job, but we're making this up as we go along. So it's fairly chaotic, and of course, because of the fact that we are recording for next week's program, we can't talk about what we did on the weekend, which was going down to Geelong.
Oh, we did, but throw a spanner in the works. Technically, this isn't actually the second show; it'll be the third show by the time it goes to the air.
Yes.
So we're just feeling the second show syndrome jitters while we're here because it's the second time in the studio.
Yes,
but no, Geelong,
yes.
getting up close and personal with the smell and all the cars. We haven't seen, a lot of the cars haven't been out, and they've been in mothballs for a while. And a lot of people down from Geelong have been. Oh, that's going to say you. Yeah, give me a camera or something like that.
Give him a camera.
Exactly. Yeah. Geelong was awesome.
Yep.
I'll just give it.
Actually, speaking of awesome, we must say thank you to our sponsors for this series of In Pit Lane, and that's the team at Online Invent. Online Invent got behind us. Basically, Roy came to us and said, "Hey, you guys coming back?" And we said, "Look, unfortunately, we really can't. We don't have a sponsor at this stage." Online Invent came on board, and if you're looking for somebody, the whole SEO thing, like and websites, digital marketing, it's an absolute minefield. It changes literally on a day-to-day basis, and you really do need a specialist in order to get the maximum return on your investment. You really do need specialists who can get behind you and run an organised campaign, and that's what Online Invent does. And as I said last week on the brief, if you were watching last week during the break, I told you about the fact that Roy had put together, an Online Invent put together a small program for us on Facebook, and we'd tried dozens of times to make the whole Facebook thing work. Never ever
Make us look pretty. You have no hope. But
but it was very successful, and we thank Online Invent for their support once again of In Pit Lane. So if you're interested, if you've got for your race team, for your sponsors, for your events, anything that involves online marketing, new website, SEO, the whole thing, just contact the guys at Online Invent.
He will spruce you up to no end, and his ongoing support long term is absolutely excellent as well, though too.
Huge motorsport fan, obviously.
Keep working, so he knows his fingers on the pulse.
He will give you a good deal. So once again, thank you to Online Invent for their support of In Pit Lane and of Channel 31 and RMITV.
If they're almost finished setting up, what was your favourite part of Geelong on the weekend?
Oh, there were Capris there. I always like Capris.
Oh, you did.
I always like
abundant amount of Capris.
There was a good number of Capris. Some beautiful cars on there. Okay, Pete, when are we?
They're ready when you are.
Okay, well, they're making the call. They're the people in charge. So let's go.
Been told.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Now, coming up this weekend down at Phillip Island is the Australian Motorsport Championships, formerly known as the Shannons Nationals, and an absolute packed program. As we said, the S5000s, TCR, the Australian GT Championship, and of course the big Trans-Am cars, the TA2 cars. And joining us tonight on the program is a young man who's been involved in not just Trans-Am series, but also in S5000 and a whole bunch of other things. And he, of course, is Nathan Herne from Gary Rogers Motorsport. Nathan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the show. It's pretty good to be here.
Now let's talk about coming up this weekend. We've got you've got all back in the Trans-Am car again, not running the S5000 this weekend. So concentrating on the Trans-Am car. Tell us a bit about, for people who don't know what TA2 is. Explain briefly what you're driving and what makes it different from, say, the average sports sedan.
So basically, Trans-Am, the cars are built over in America, how racing, so they're a control package car, very similar to a supercar. So actually a silhouette car. So basically, you get a roll cage, get an engine, and that's basically every car is the exact same. So you got Ford Mustang, Chev Camaro, and Dodge Challenger, all powered on an LS3 engine, so a Chev engine. And there's no differences between any bodies. So obviously you got the minor aero difference between a Dodge Mustang and a Chev. But apart from that, all the cars underneath the skin are the exact same. So I could rip the body off my car, which is Ford Mustang, plug it onto a Dodge Challenger with relative ease, and go racing again next week. So it's it is a very cool category in the fact that it's all so controlled. You don't need a whole engineering team to run the cars. You can do a dad and lad. I've done it with my dad in 2019, and we had some pretty good success back then as well. It has taken the next step up where you do need that team behind you. I've been very lucky to be a part of GRM for the first year of Trans-Am racing with them. And we've got a 3-car assault this year, so we're going to try and learn as much as we can, as quick as we can.
So it all comes down to the way you set the car up, I suppose. And obviously you're on the spanner, on the tools over at GRM as well, though, too. I noticed that. You keep your hands dirty and stuff like that. But how did you know about... When did you learn to set up? When did you start, and where did you come from originally, and wanted to know that you wanted to be involved in motorsport and cars, etc., like that, and where you grew up, where your heart is at the moment?
Basically, with 99% of people in motorsport, it's born into you. It's not really a sport you do get introduced to later on in life. You're either really born into it or you don't really understand it. So for me, I was born into it. My dad raced Speedway for 25 years. So I remember when I was a kid, watching him at night time, I'd always go down to the shed and stay there till bedtime and watch him and all of his mates working on his V8 modified and get that ready to go. So I grew up in a Speedway scene. which is a very pure form of motorsport. You know, you funded the car yourself, you worked on the car yourself, no engineer, no data, no nothing. You literally go out there, drive it, give yourself your own feedback, talk to yourself as if you're the crew chief, and
Motivate yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a lot of hard yards really to do Speedway, and I do take my hat off to all these guys who do get out in Speedway, especially, you know, bitumen's hard enough, and we've got 6 rounds throughout a whole year. You know, Speedway, they can do 25 shows in 25 weeks, so it's...
And I did mention that you were, you had your extracurricular activity over the past couple of weeks down in Tassie. You've actually been doing some Speedway. You've been running sprint cars. How's that been? How did that happen?
Yeah, so that one actually took me from left field. So I had a meeting with Marcus, Gary and Barry. You know, I like to sort of catch up with them and see how I am.
Marcus being Marcus Ambrose?
Marcus Ambrose, yeah, sorry. So and Gary and Barry Rogers. So I had a meeting with them just to catch up and see how I was trucking along. For me, you know, this whole bitumen scene is new for me, and obviously I've just moved down from home and living by myself now and working. I'm trying to make sure I'm, you know, staying on train tracks. So yeah, when they said that to me originally, I thought they were joking. It was a deal sort of Marcus had in mind from obviously being in America for so long.
Yeah.
A lot of the American guys do race bitumen and Speedway over there, and he wanted to try it out over here. So I was lucky enough to be the scientific project, I guess you could say, and the experiment, and they put me in it. So.
And as you say, that a lot of that would come from his NASCAR experience, where, as you say, you know, we've seen people like Kyle Larson. A lot of the top NASCAR drivers do regularly go back onto the dirt into things like midgets and sprint cars and all that. Of course, Cam Waters in the supercars has been playing around. Have you raced Cam at any stage yet, or is that something that's a bit of a niggle that you're going to do at some stage in the future?
But probably in the future. For this year, we stayed in Tasmania just to sort of learn the cars and progress further without, you know, having too much pressure on me at one stage. You know, my surname is relatively big in Speedway land, and for me, you know, I've somewhat built a name for myself as well. So we sort of wanted to stay, you know, off the mainstream and sort of, you know,
fly under the radar a little bit, because I think
yeah.
you've been throwing mud around down in Tassie, like you just said, whereas I think Cameron's been throwing it around, digging up dirt around the Mildura area.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's expanding because he's starting to grow up the ranks a bit. But also Shane's been jumping on a bit over in New Zealand. I noticed he jumped in them as well, though, too, for a brief period. So it's good. What do you think you could possibly take away doing a bit of Speedway for 6 weeks, a couple of months, and take back to the bitumen stuff that you were just talking about before? What you can take away from it the most?
Well, you know, when I first drove the S5000, I thought, this thing's fast. Like, you know, you have no time to think. You really just switched on 24/7. But then I hopped in the sprint car, done heat 1. I think it was a 10-lap heat, and I was absolutely rooted after it. So, yeah, I came in.
Sorted you out, did it?
Yeah, I was dripping in sweat, and, you know, I keep myself fit and you know, feel like I am a fit person, and hopped out of the sprint car, and I was, yeah, absolutely down for the count. So, yeah, I think for me, you know, sprint car is such a fast car. It's so high pace. The tracks in Tasmania are not very big at all. You know, they're very small tracks, very fast as well. Quite often we do 10-second lap times. So, you know, to go around 4 corners in 10 seconds, you know, it's a lot going on at one stage, and as well as that, you're racing against, you know, 15, 20 other cars. So
don't blink, you'll miss a corner.
Exactly. And you know, the 410 sprint car, 900 horsepower, 450 kilos. It's not a toy to throw around with. It's something you really got to respect and drive well. So, you know, for the first few rounds, I was sort of hanging on with a ski rope behind the car. Unfortunately, this year, COVID sort of slowed us down a little bit, so I only got to do 6 meetings throughout the summer season. So I didn't get to do as much seat time as I would have liked to in the Speedway, but look, towards the end of it, I was starting to get some really good results on the board and get very consistent. So, yeah, hopefully we can come back again next year and do it again.
Had that much fun.
Oh, it's awesome. It's what I've always wanted to do since I was a little kid. The bitumen stuff, you know, whilst yes, I sort of have got a bit of a career in it now, that was all by chance. That was never actually meant to happen. So, yeah, the Speedway is where I was always wanting to go, and yeah, now the bitumen sort of taken over.
Well, we'll talk about the bitumen in just a moment. We're going to take a break now on In Pit Lane, but when we come back, we'll be joined once again by Nathan Herne, and we'll be finding out about what he's doing this weekend down at Phillip Island, also his plans for the future and things like S5000 and beyond. You're watching In Pit Lane. When we come back, more of Nathan and music from our special guest, Kyle Plummer. This is In Pit Lane. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Okay, so yes, so joining us is Kyle Plummer tonight, and you'll find him gigging around Melbourne. He's also on, if you want to catch up with him, he's on Instagram at Kyle Plummer Music, and also on Bandcamp. If you want to get some of his music, he is on Bandcamp, and you can check out some of his music there. And right now he's going to be his first song tonight. He's going to be singing once again one of his own compositions. This is Kyle Plummer and Treading Water.
Used to look at me with kindness. Your words used to sound sincere, but now all our conversations are drowning in uncertainty and fear. Feels like we're treading water, and you're holding my head down, and the tides, they drag us under, as we struggle to find ground. We used to be supportive of each other's hopes and dreams, but now it's been one too many. Agree to disagree. It feels like we're treading water, and I'm pushing your head down, and the tides, they drag us under, as we struggle not to drown. It feels like we're treading water. It feels like we're treading water. It feels like we're treading water. Feels like we're treading water.
Kyle Plummer and Treading Water. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks for that. And Kyle will be back to play us out a little bit later on in the program. We're on a break now. If you're wondering where Doc's gone, he's just jumped behind the camera. We are so short. We've had Darren running between cameras.
And it broke on me. No, I'm not kidding. One of the brackets was loose on it, and it was slipping around on me, and I had to tighten it up. So
okay.
I didn't actually get so much camera
so
work.
Hang around, Kyle, and we'll just get the cameras back into.
Pete's looking at me strangely. It's like, what are you doing? I didn't do anything.
We seem to have a lot of headroom all of a sudden. Okay.
Very good.
So yes, so as I said, we're missing out on quite a few of our crew of our regular crew tonight.
One had to go interstate, one had family reasons, one had work, one had this.
We had all sorts of things just in the last, it was one of those days. And as I said, the second show syndrome, whenever sort of, we do come in for the first show and it's all
unplanned.
Yeah, it's all goes very nicely. And then the second show comes around and
we've only had two out of three mics go down tonight, so.
Yep, we've done fairly well. But when we're ready, once Jace is back into position,
and stuff like that. I could have just put my mic in the middle, and we all could have just still sat there and talked into it like a campfire.
No, we couldn't.
No.
Yes. So when we come out of the break, yes, I've just remembered full course yellow. Thank you.
FCY.
Thank you. Yes. Some of you.
So what are you while we're waiting for them to do the next door in the control room? What are you looking forward to after this weekend coming up at? You would be down at Phillip Island if we were going a week ahead. What's in store after that, buddy?
After Phillip Island's a bit of a break actually. So this year I think I've raced for nearly every second weekend, or they've sort of been all in strings. So I think I had a bit of January off, and since February started, it's been flat stick. So. Yeah, a bit of a break and...
What are you looking forward to getting into most then, after your break?
I don't know.
What vehicle?
We'll see. I'll get into drive.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know. I'll try and get... I don't know. We'll wait and see. I'll try and get a few drives maybe, but...
S5000 or
to organise
more TA2s or something?
Sorry. Yep.
Cool, good.
Okay.
Just
we ready?
Keeping Facebook entertained. Thanks, mate.
No, that's all right.
Are you into motorsport? Yes, of course you are. Otherwise, what the hell would you be doing here otherwise? Well, then why not join us every Thursday night live for Full Course Yellow, our weekly get-together, where we sit around and chat and bring you the latest news from the world of motorsport, whether it's local, international, circuit racing, drag racing, speedway, motocross, MotoGP, you name it. If it's got an engine, if it's got wheels, even if it doesn't have wheels, we'll be talking about it on Full Course Yellow. That's every Thursday night at 9 o'clock, live on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. Remember to like and subscribe.
Welcome back to In Pit Lane. Now, if you're watching this program, I assume that you've got some interest in motorsport. If you have, how about joining us every Thursday night live at 9 o'clock for Full Course Yellow? It's an opportunity when myself and Doc and Pete and a whole bunch of other people get together and we talk about the week in motorsport, just have a chat. We bring you up to date with the latest news. It's just basically a chat between friends, a bit of a Zoom chat that we all get together and have a bit of a talk about the weekend coming up and all the news over the week, and we'd love you to be a part of it. We'd like you to contribute, send in your comments, send in your questions. That's every Thursday night at 9 o'clock on the In Pit Lane YouTube channel. And if you haven't, go to the In Pit Lane YouTube channel, like and subscribe, click the notification bell, and then whenever we put some any new content up, you'll be informed. Like we did just recently, a couple of weeks back at Geelong for we just put up some footage from Geelong from a couple of weeks back, and we'll have stuff from no doubt Phillip Island and other places to come in the weeks to come. But joining us tonight, Nathan Herne. Now, we mentioned S5000. What are your plans for S5000 this year?
Yeah, so for this year, obviously last year done double duties with GRM, and that was quite a busy year to do both. So talking to Gary, Barry and Marcus about it all, they, wanted me to keep doing the S5000 stuff and Trans-Am, but probably not at the same time. The way that TV schedule works out, every single time we race, the categories were behind each other. So I'd have to hop out of one car, sprint to the other one, and race in that one.
How different were they?
Very different. Even if you just look at the cars, you can realise how different they are. So you got a 900 horsepower, 560 kilo race car with wings and big slicks on it in the S5000, and then you got the 1250 kilo, 525 horsepower Trans-Am with a bag tyre, so not a radial tyre either. So the driving techniques was really different. And for me for a lot of race car drivers, you don't think about what you do when you drive. You think about what's happening in a race. For me, I had to cognitively think all the time, okay, I've got to brake here, I've got to turn here and do all this, and it crammed up a lot of my mental capacity whilst driving, especially in the S5000 because they're such a raw car to drive, even when you're just doing it by itself. So yeah, we had a look at some of my results, like Sydney, when I'd just done S5000 by itself and focused on it, and Sandown. and they were two of my strongest rounds consistency-wise. Granted, Sydney, I had a failure, well, two failures actually, which took me out of two of the races. It wasn't my best results-wise weekend, but driving-wise, I felt really comfortable in the car. So we decided against doing double duties. So I'm doing 5 rounds this year in the S5000. So I'll be doing the Australian Grand Prix in April, which is the next round. Darwin with the supercars, so that'll be a very interesting one. A kilometre long straight to slipstream in the S5000s will be something to look forward to. And then we've got the Tasman Series to round out the end of the year.
So back to Mount Panorama.
Yeah,
exactly.
Serious to look
Hey,
at.
listen, we've just about run out of time, but thanks for joining us. Now, I'll just let you know that Nathan came in at the last minute because he's actually standing in for his boss at the moment. Because joining us next week on In Pit Lane will be one of the people that Nathan mentioned before. Barry Rogers will be joining us here at the big desk next week on the program. But we're right out of time now.
Well, it'll be remiss of us as well too. Congratulations on the 2018 winning the 2 championships, the Victorian and the New South Wales.
We've got to go, Doc. Yes, congratulations. We've got to go,
Yeah.
because right now, to take us out here on Channel 31, our music this week is by Kyle Plummer, and you can catch up with him with all the socials, Instagram, Kyle Plummer Music, and he's going to take us out right now with All the Best. So until we see you next week, all the best.
Wish you all the best, and only happiness and the will to find some kind of peace. Wish you only love and self-forgiveness and the courage follow your dreams. Wish you only warmth and always kindness and the strength to overcome defeat. Wish you all the best, and only happiness